Item number 8, we have a public hearing this evening. We're going to actually conduct a little bit of business, hopefully quickly. We're going to hold the public hearing and take the following actions to approve the medical office project at 841 San Bruno Avenue and associated environmental determinations. We're going to look to do two actions. First, waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 12.96.120 of Title 12, Land Use of the San Bruno Municipal Code to change from Administrative and Research AR District to Plan Development District PD, and to adopt a related district development plan to establish use and development standards for property identified as 841 San Bruno Avenue West. The second item is to adopt a resolution approving a plan development permit and an architectural review permit to ensure that the proposed development conforms to the provisions of the district development plan. David?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. The application before you was submitted by Market Street Development, LLC. Mr. Charles Smith is the representative of that group and is here this evening and is prepared to provide a brief presentation after my staff report. He'll describe reasons why they're looking at San Bruno for a dialysis center and give some background about the proposed project. The site of this application is 841 San Bruno Avenue West, which is within the San Bruno Transit Corridors Plan area. The Transit Corridors Plan was adopted by the City Council in February of 2013. This application represents the second proposed redevelopment project within the TCP area since its adoption. Last year at about this time, the City Council approved the first proposal, the Plaza, a mixed-use development at El Camino Real and San Mateo Avenue. As a consequence of that action, the then vacant and obsolete El Camino Real cinema building and adjoining buildings on that site were removed, and construction of that project is scheduled to begin in spring of 2016. This current proposal on San Bruno Avenue, like the Plaza proposal, involves the removal of an existing obsolete building and transformation of the related property to conform with a vibrant and more modern vision described in the adopted San Bruno Transit Corridors Plan. More specifically, the current proposal involves removing the existing two-story, 10,000 square foot building on that site and replacing it with a building which is characterized by current, more modern architecture. This proposed building is going to be about 15,223 square feet in area. It's proposed to be 2 floors. It's a medical office building. The proposed building, you'll see exhibits of it behind me on the boards. This proposed building has interesting architecture with many structural offsets, including building overhangs and awnings, a warm blend of exterior colors, and perimeter landscaping. A total of 43 parking spaces are proposed to support this building. 11 of those parking spaces would be subterranean. While the TCP would allow up to 70 feet in height for a building at this location, this proposed building is proposed to be approximately 40 feet in height and is sensitively designed in relationship to the existing single-family residential units to the south. The existing building has been occupied by a mix of medical, dental, and other administrative and general office uses over time, and with the proposed Project Development District Development Plan, the same range of uses would continue to be allowed to occupy the site. In preparation for redeveloping this site, the applicant has been working with the existing tenants, and staff understands that these tenants have either relocated or are in the final stages of relocation. The applicant is intending that the primary use of the proposed building will be a dialysis center with supporting office uses. The entitlements or approvals being requested to move forward with this project include the following: amendments to the city's zoning code to change the zoning district classification of the property from Administrative and Research District AR to Planned Development District, and to approve a related district development plan to establish use and development standards for the property consistent with the governing transit corridors plan and the city's general plan. So that's item 1, and staff has prepared an ordinance for your consideration attached in your staff report packet. The second item has to do with an approval of a plan development permit and an architectural review permit to ensure consistency with the applicable general plan and specific plan and the approved development plan guidelines as part of the ordinance. And staff has prepared a resolution in your packet for that action. Third, and this is administrative at an administrative level, the site is comprised of 2 lots, and those 2 lots need to be combined to move forward with the project. A lot line adjustment will be required. That'll be handled by staff. Fourth, there's a requirement for an environmental review for a project like this. And in this case, we have a certified environmental impact report that was prepared for the transit corridor specific plan. It's been determined based on a review by staff and a consultant hired for this project that the transit corridor specific plan will cover the environmental review for this project. Overall, this proposed project has been reviewed by the city's Architecture Review Committee and the Planning Commission. Reviewed by the Architecture Review Committee on August 13th and November 12th of this year, and by the Planning Commission on November 3rd. Both bodies had a number of recommendations for improving this project. The applicant has incorporated all of those recommendations in the proposed project that's before you tonight and addressed with proposed conditions of approval. Additionally, the proposed project has been reviewed by applicable city departments, and city departments have recommended conditions of approval, which have been reviewed by the applicant and accepted by the applicant. Accordingly, given this review process and the incorporation of revisions to plans and the recommended conditions of approval, staff is recommending that you move forward this evening and take the action to waive first reading and introduce the ordinance amending Chapter 12.96.120 of Title 12 of the San Bruno Municipal Code to change from Administrative and Research District to Planned Development District, and to adopt a related district development plan to establish use and development standards for this property identified as 841 San Bruno Avenue West. Secondly, staff is recommending that you move forward and adopt a resolution approving both the planned development plan and architectural review permit. Both the ordinance and the resolution are attached to your packet. I'd be happy to receive any questions you may have on this matter. And additionally, we have a number of people in the audience. We have Charles Smythe, the applicant's representative. They can talk a little bit about the dialysis center and why at this location. We also have Ray Pendro, who's with Moore, Isofano, and Goldsman, who prepared the environmental review. And we also have the project planner that worked on this project, Paula Bradley. So with that, staff would be happy to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any questions for staff?
Through the chair. David, could you explain, mainly on the architecture, that there were some concerns or there were some comments by the Planning Commission and possibly ARC review, and what those might be, and did we get a peer review from our design consultant on this, and what was his comments?
Yes, we did. Be happy to review all that for you. The Architecture Review Committee and Planning Commission had a number of issues that they raised. One, they were looking at the tower element at the northeast elevation of the proposed project as viewed from El Camino Real and San Bruno Avenue. And they were trying to decide whether there should be a flat, slanted, or a hip roof on that tower element. Both the Architecture Review Committee and Planning Commission looked at that, and they decided that they favored going with the flat roof that was more consistent with the overall kind of more modern architecture of the proposed project. They also wanted to make sure along the southern elevation, this is the elevation that faces the existing residential units to the south, that there be some attractive treatment to that side elevation. You'll notice in your plans that there's a green wall. You'll also notice that in the conditions of approval, there's a requirement for a full fencing plan to assure separation and screening between those residential units and the proposed project site, and also landscape treatments. Additionally, the commission and committee were looking at the weather conditions in this area and felt that in terms of wind conditions coming into the site from the west, that it would be favorable to have a vestibule in the inner interior in the waiting room of the dialysis center. And so the applicant modified the vestibule area to create kind of a double entry for protection of people in that area. They also wanted to see some foundation plantings, and the applicant installed foundation plantings. Those were some of the comments that were addressed by the applicant and came forward from the Architecture Review Committee and the Planning Commission. And Councilmember, you had another request perhaps?
Just comments from our design consultant.
Sure. From Mr. Cannon. Larry Cannon is our design consultant. Mr. Cannon had similar comments in terms of building architecture, in terms of making sure that there would be sufficient offsets. And I think as you look at the plans, there are a significant number of building offsets, both in terms of the elevation and in terms of the roof line. So I feel that the applicant addressed his comments there. He also had comments about trying to ensure that there would be some screening and separation between this site, its parking area, and the residential properties to the south. And you'll notice that there is some perimeter landscaping, albeit with that perimeter landscaping, because there's a sewer line in that area. We don't want to see large trees in that area, but there will be plants and shrubs, and there's a requirement for full perimeter fencing. So the fencing is a condition of approval, and with the landscaping, I think that'll be addressed. He also was wanting to make sure that there would be a kind of a friendly treatment as seen from San Bruno Avenue, and you'll notice that there are quite a few windows to give this a more friendly appearance instead of more of a blank wall. So, window treatments, there's an open patio at the northeast elevation, again, trying to create that more friendly treatment. So again, it was peer reviewed, and the comments of Mr. Cannon were addressed by the applicant.
Well, thank you. And lastly, was there any comments about the color palette? It just seems that this color palette just seems to be used for almost every complex. I mean, you see it at Tan Fran, you see it at Town Center, you see it here. It doesn't bother me or anything. It's just that it's very common.
There was discussion about the colors and the combination of offsets and architectural elements and treatments, and I think that both the Architecture Review Committee and the Planning Commission, as well as Mr. Cannon, were satisfied that the combination, the variety of architectural elements and treatments and colors provided interest and would be in keeping with the design guidelines in the transit corridors plan.
Good. Any other questions for staff? At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone from the public like to speak on this item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Charles Smythe, Market Street Development, 1104 Corporate Way, Sacramento, California. Happy birthday, Ms. Bonner. Ms. Bonner, I'm sorry. I'd like to thank staff, David and Paula, for their work over the past year. They've been great to work with. We've pretty much tried to accommodate all the requests and get the design. We have ended up this location. Our client's been looking in this market for up to 4 years for a location. This area is underserved for dialysis as the population ages and the demographics change, the demand's increasing. They have not been able to find alternative locations. When this property became available, we were very quick to move on it. The access to Highway 380, 101, El Camino provides excellent access. 85% plus the patients are non-ambulatory and are dropped off by medical vans or family members. The other thing this site offers is excellent shopping and restaurants in the area. So if a family member drops somebody off for care, they can do shopping, go have lunch, and spend some time in the area and come back and pick up the family member later. Our client keeps track, and I believe the government does too, of the dialysis patients in certain areas. So this area is currently underserved, as most areas are, and that's why you're seeing more and more of these clinics unfortunately pop up. I'm here to really answer any of the other questions. Our architect's here. I'll keep it brief. I know you have a busy evening tonight.
Thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions? I think we're good. Anyone else from the public like to speak on this item? If I close the public hearing, going to be precluded from speaking on this again. Action on the
Move to close public hearing?
motion, is second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any other questions or comments from staff? For staff or action by the council?
Thank you. I would like to commend the staff for the excellent job they've done. It's extremely thorough. If you've ever seen this packet, presentation of what you've done and what the Planning Commission has done, I have a little bit of detailed questions that perhaps there's a way that I could address them at a separate time. And I don't want to delay anything. I don't want to belabor what we're doing, but is there?
If those questions are design related?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a couple of options. As you know from previous experience, minor design related changes that are consistent in overall character and quality to the architecture review approval can be made by the director. We would be happy to accommodate a conversation with you, or Councilmember Ibarra had some questions as well. If the council would like to establish a subcommittee, or if you'd like to do that individually, we're happy to do that and meet with you and potentially address those if they're minor.
Okay, I would like that. Thank you.
Good. Anything else or action by the council? We're looking to waive the first reading as the first motion.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, I think it's a very handsome building, and I mean, a couple of the concerns that the Planning Commission, I compliment them on finding those. It does not look like a medical office building, which is very good, and I think it's a vast improvement for what it's replacing out there. And with that, I'll make a motion to waive the first reading.
Second?
Motion second to waive the first reading. On the question, all in favor?
Aye. I will,
Introduce the ordinance.
I'll introduce the resolution.
Ordinance first.
Introduce the ordinance.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
With that, I'd like to adopt the resolution.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.